those gaps, they lead to fear. You feel alone in it, all of it to begin with. You don't have the right information. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going on. And you're just left in the dark.
The Chronic Truth Podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. The views expressed by our guests are their personal opinions and do not constitute medical advice. While we share experiences and strategies related to health, neither the host nor the guest are acting as licensed medical professionals unless explicitly stated. Always consult your physician or qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your treatment plan. Listeners assume all risks associated with implementing any information discussed on this show.
Good evening and welcome to the Chronic Truth Podcast. I'm Kimberly Nash. Today, I'm excited to welcome back Jenny Jones, founder of Life's Apolyp and now the newly launched Life's Apolyp Foundation. Jenny has spent years advocating for those living with FAP and short bowel syndrome. She's now expanding that mission through education, advocacy, community, and research. We're talking about this exciting new chapter and the impact it could have for patients and families and where hope is growing for the future. Jenny, welcome back.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be back.
This is such exciting news. We had you on our show, I want to say probably 6 to 9 months ago. So it's been a while, but you've been a busy girl.
Yes, a lot has been happening and quickly so.
You shared your personal journey before with us. Can you share a little bit about what FAP is and what are some of the biggest gaps in awareness and care that you're still seeing with people living with FAP today?
Absolutely. So FAP stands for Familial Adenomatous Polyposis. It's a hereditary colon cancer syndrome. It's a rare disease, but it's so much more than the colon. And that was one of the things too, that when we talk about gaps, we talk about gaps in knowledge, and then also misconceptions are some really big gaps that we still experience. And I was even guilty of that the last time I was on the Chronic Truth, because I defaulted back to my understanding of when I was a kid and a teenager and in college even, and it's a prime example of those gaps. So I had shared previously, I'd stated that it starts in the colon, that it always starts in the colon, and that's just not true. And that's one of the biggest gaps, I would say. It's whole body. Yes, it's a colon cancer syndrome. That's one of the biggest things is the risk of colorectal cancer because it's inevitable that it's going to become cancerous due to the polyps being, they're precancerous, and over time there's just hundreds of thousands of them and you can't manage it after a while with scopes alone and, medicines that help reduce polyp burden. And I defaulted and the truth is that there's signs and symptoms of them that can be in your eyes, it can be in your skin, cysts, dental abnormalities, things like that. And up to age 5, you're at a higher risk for a type of liver cancer. And so really, because of all these gaps in provider understanding and patient and family understanding, there's families will be told, well, you don't need to be tested until your kid's a teenager. No.
Wrong information, listeners.
Wrong information, wrong, misconception. Because a lot of that's what a lot of patients and families have been told too. That was a misconception, a gap in my family. We've traced it back to 5 generations, and it wasn't until I was well into college that we were like, oh, you mean the fact that I was missing some teeth as a child, like I was born without some teeth? No, wait, that was wrong. I was born with extra teeth. I'm sorry.
Nope,
some people are born without some teeth, but I was born with extra teeth. And that's a sign of FAP, but we didn't even know that till I was well into college. So there's a lot of misunderstanding still, and then it gets spread, whether, it's just, I don't think it's intentional, but doctors just don't know. that's, and then you have people like me who accidentally revert back and tell you the wrong information.
We are correcting that on today's show.
Yes. Yes, we are, because it's just, and there's misconceptions that add to that, as far as that it's a death sentence or that you can't have a normal life expectancy. And so all these different bits of wrong information, or they're different misconceptions, but sometimes they're based off of fear, or they're just based off of people just don't realize, and then it spreads. And so it really can impact not only the timing of testing, the surveillance that is needed to help prevent cancers and help to monitor, because, for example, like we're at risk of desmoid tumors. Those are benign, but they grow aggressively. They interfere with your other organs. They can cause a lot of pain. They can cause a lot of issues. And if a provider or a patient doesn't know all the right information, there's a lot at risk for someone.
Go down a wrong path.
Yes, absolutely. And so those are some of the biggest gaps, I would say. We also see gaps, though, in treatment options. Right now, there's no FDA-approved medication for FAP. There are off-label uses of medicines that have been seen in studies to help slow polyp growth or polyp size, reducing the polyp burden, mainly in the colon and the rectum. We're seeing things, some of them you might see help like with the stomach or other GI organs, which is wonderful. But the main treatment is surgery to remove the colon and the rectum, and eventually, potentially, not in every case, some people experience stomach removal, whether it's partial or full. So we've got information that's missing, and we've got treatment options that are missing. And that's one of my big things is I want to see us move past we're just delaying surgery, which is we delay surgery through regular scopes, colonoscopy, EGD, the upper scope, and sometimes, you use medicines with those off-label uses to help with that, and then medicines that are being done in clinical trials to see if that will help also delay surgery. But I hope that one day we can move past that and we can just prevent surgery altogether.
It sounds like this particular condition doesn't have a lot of research funding.
I would say, yeah, I feel like it's needing a lot more. We have seen a bit, I think, a push or more awareness, let's say, maybe might be more accurate in the last few years. Back 10 years ago, Michigan started FAP Awareness Day, and then it became week. And we've seen awareness grow over that 10-year period. And so there's clinical trials going on, the Fight Colorectal Cancer and CGA, IGC, they've picked up FAP Awareness Week. We've got other states picking it up. And so over the last 10 years, I would say we're seeing a push. But there's not enough funding for it, I would say. I don't feel like it's enough. And we're seeing some changes with things too, where there's a shift in focus from just the colon and the rectum to how FAP affects other organs, particularly the GI organs, because of the polyp growth, which can occur in other organs, but the main focus is GI. And so yeah, the biggest concern that everybody tends to have is the colon and the rectum, but because of lack of funding, right, and that's the biggest focus, you also get limited research on the other effects, the other organs that get impacted. And so there's a lot of areas for growth that we could see here, and that we're hoping to change, to help change the quality of life.
Well, and that leads me to my next question. Since our last visit, Life's Apolyp has grown into an official foundation. What inspired this step, and what does this mean for the FAP community?
So our goal, I would say what inspired it, it's been a thought in the back of my mind before. I've gone back and forth with it. But between the support of the community and a lot of my advocacy has changed. It's been evolving. Sorry, my mom's cat. Speaking of my mom.
I love her.
I know. My mom had FAP. She had short bowel syndrome. She's a big part of my story and the history of Life's Apolyp. And we lost her in 2024. She has, it was complications. Kind of the third reason, on the death certificate was FAP. And I think this is a perfect way to make it her legacy. One of the things that I had always kind of felt, right, originally was that Life's Apolyp was my legacy. It was how I was doing what I could to change the world for FAP patients and their families so that they didn't go through the things I did as a child, especially with FAP. When when my mom died, I touched my forehead to hers, and it was like electric. It was like she was giving me everything. And I've come to realize that part of what she was giving me, not just all of her strength and everything that was her, and everything to help me keep going, but she gave me like a new mission. and I see that as Life's Apolyp Foundation. It was really hard to try to find how to continue advocacy for FAP and short bowel syndrome after losing mom, and this just fits.
Yes.
Well,
and I kind of understand that because I lost my mom to Hep C, and so us daughters that are there to the last minute, it's impactful on our being.
Yes.
My mom's last words were, "You do this not without a fight." And that's what led me. But I went through a downward rabbit hole per se, after, because I lost my direction. My whole support, my whole system is gone. So I had to find who Kim was. But it was through her life and her journey that I gained the strength, and I see that in you.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful story, and I relate
Yes,
to you and your mom. Like that's what a parallel.
Yes, it is. It's so much like that,
Yeah.
I've had, obviously, this is her 20th year gone. So I've had a little bit more time to process this and find my own purpose, obviously, with this podcast. But there's changes within us that we grow as women, as daughters, but you will always have that root. And I truly believe that you have something here, Jenny, that is powerful for not only your story, but your legacy. 5 generations.
Yeah. And that's what we know of.
Yeah. And it could be a lot. You don't know.
It could be.
Yeah.
We don't know.
So.
But yeah, and that's you speak about kind of not just my legacy, but that of the family line. And it's the ultimate goal is how can we make life better for FAP patients? And through it being a 501c3 nonprofit, being Life's Apolyp Foundation, we can expand that. Because we've gone deeper into that education. Like education's always been a core part, but now we've been able to go deeper. And so we have a whole education dive on our website, and working currently on some patient guides that also include education, but also adding more advocacy tools, adding some different toolkits and different ideas of things to do, such as like establishing support groups and things like that, for building community. And I mean, I know, like, for me, community's been life-changing for me. And so it's how can we make everything better for patients and their families? And obviously with those gaps, education's a big thing. And by being a nonprofit, we can have better connections, better support from providers to help with that education.
Yes.
So it's not just, here's research articles, but let's make it where we can understand it better. Community, obviously, we got to build that. And so we have a whole list of different community resources, and we're always happy to help do one-on-one, helping connect people to others and other groups. I'm always available too. I talk a lot.
And you got your feet on the ground, and you're doing the work for so many that need this, Jenny. You got your feet on the ground, you're running. you're trying to bring awareness, something that you didn't have, or probably mom or
Yeah,
your family in general that you didn't have. So you're using what you didn't have to turn it as a tool to help others.
absolutely. Because it is, um, when growing up, it was just the only people I knew with FAP was my mom and my grandpa. When I was in 8th grade, I went to the youth rally camp and I met one other person finally with FAP. She was a counselor. Um, sorry. And but then again, but then it wasn't until I was well into adulthood, I think 2017 probably, until I actually physically met another person with FAP.
Wow.
It was in 2012 that I started getting to meet online other people, and that's what led to developing establishing Life's Apolyp in the beginning. But when you don't have that awareness of other people, you don't get that connection, you don't have that information awareness, all of it's lacking, all of it's missing, all of it's harder.
Yeah.
It's just, and so that's why it's just at the core, it's just so important to be able to find other people, to know you're not alone,
Yes.
and help, change some of those gaps in understanding, those misconceptions, because especially those gaps, they lead to fear. You feel alone in it, all of it to begin with. You don't have the right information. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going on, and you're just left in the dark.
Have you found with FAP, I know for myself, when I first got diagnosed with Hep C, I was Googling it,
Yeah.
because my doctor gave me a pink slip, said you're, Hep C positive. That was all I got. So I didn't know anything about the disease. So I was Googling it.
Mm-hmm.
I found years later, the stuff I was reading was probably 75% incorrect.
Oh my gosh.
And so I don't
That's
know if
terrible.
that's like kind of the gap too with
Yeah.
knowledge
I
on the internet, or has it gotten better?
I think, well, so I would say that when you go to a lot of the websites, to me, they're superficial. Level of understanding. Like, I want the deep dive. Like, I want to know, I want us to talk about like the codons and the exons, and the DNA. Like, and you don't get that unless you go to the research articles. And then also, right, it's like, how do I understand this? So then you have to do more research. And then you're like, double guessing yourself. Is this accurate? Is this not? And so I would say there's a part of it where it's just very superficial level understanding. And so you don't get the full details. Then the other part of it, I would say, is some of it's just outdated. Um, like it's at the time, that's what their understanding was. But you find a lot of things sometimes that the changes in the information hasn't been, in my opinion, fully explained to be like, this is why this is no longer accurate. So you have a lot of people that are going off old information. And I'll give you an example of that. So NCCN, they're the National Comprehensive Cancer Network. That's the guidelines for FAP surveillance that we use on Life's Apolyp Foundation website. There's also ESMO, which is in Europe. But one thing that you'll hear a lot of, and it gets controversial and it gets debated, is about Turcotte syndrome and Gardner syndrome. So when those were at the time understood that they were variants of FAP, well, as we continue to do research, then you're finding that, okay, Turcotte syndrome is not necessarily like really a precise, because with Turcotte syndrome you can get brain cancer, and that's a risk with FAP. And so if you had brain cancer, it was referred to Turcotte syndrome for a long time. But they're moving away from that, and they're like, you know what? Like with Gardner syndrome, it was believed that if you only had polyps like in your colon and your rectum, or mainly really just your colon probably, not other organs, or you had other things like desmoids or cysts or just, other abnormalities, that it was Gardner syndrome. So if you didn't have anything outside your colon, then it was just FAP.
It was linked to that.
But if it's outside of that, then it was Gardner syndrome. Well, it's going to be hard pressed to find someone who hasn't had something happen outside of their colon with FAP. And if it hasn't, I think it's just a matter of time based off of getting to know the community and research. And so, but you'll still hear those diagnoses used a lot. But NCCN does not recognize them as variants anymore. They used to. They don't anymore.
They don't anymore.
In the updated, there's an updated like guideline article for ESMO. They don't mention that in there in the latest update that I've looked at. You know, they used to. So it's just kind of things like that. And is that necessarily a bad thing to continue to talk about? I don't know that it really is, but it's not necessarily. I would say it's not accurate anymore.
Right.
It was based off of understanding that we had at the time. We're seeing things differently. You know, you talk about another variant that's often referred to, and it still is attenuated FAP. Now, what does that mean? So that means that generally your polyp development is at a later age and it's a lower number. So instead of hundreds to thousands, like maybe you might see 100. And you may not, you know, even have an issue with that until like your 50s or 60s. But that line between FAP and AFAP is getting more and more blurred as research is being done. And we're finding more and more out. And so you see these, but if you do research articles, you'll see all kinds of things about gardeners, especially. And then you'll see ones that are like, oh, well, that's not anything, you know, that's not recognized anymore. Oh, but it is, and it's not. And so this the
circle.
Yeah. And so it does, right? It leads you to be like, okay, well, what else maybe is outdated that's being reported, being used in new articles? It makes you wonder. And again, that's another reason why continued research is so important.
Well, and I think too, you starting this foundation and being able to be not only a patient, you're able to keep up with you're in groups and you're in research studies and you're a very bright young woman, you know, that does her research before posting anything, you know, and so I think that's a true testimony to listeners is know your source.
Yes.
You know,
and that's such a big thing because, you know, like knowing your source and when you're looking at research articles, you know, that goes back to, well, who sponsored that study? Who sponsored that article? You know, it's, you got a whole list of things to consider, you know, who funded it, who's doing it.
They could be biased.
It could be exactly. It could be biased, and you have to be mindful of these things. And it's always good to take that information and take it to your doctor and be like, "Hey, you know, do I understand this properly? First of all, these are my questions about it. You know, I just want to discuss it. Can we talk about it? And you know, and sometimes too, maybe your doctor doesn't has limited understanding about FAP. Okay. But that doesn't mean that they can't help, you know, reach out to others that have a better understanding. That, you know, they can do consultations too. A lot of doctors do. It's common practice because people don't know everything.
Nope.
And
you can't expect doctors to know everything. That's why they're specialties now.
Yes. Anyway, it's just like, and it's like with like every field, you know, it's a common practice to be like, hey, let me pick your brain on this. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, you know, is there someone else too that we could talk with or that could kind of help shed light on this? And I think for a lot of doctors, it's refreshing when a patient wants to better understand their conditions. And so taking that to them, I think a lot of them, you know, I think personally, like in my experience, like my doctor, I love my GI doctor. I think he likes to nerd out with me and we talk about these things. I like to nerd out. I think he enjoys it too.
Yeah, he's like, finally someone gets me. And you're like, finally you get me.
Right, absolutely. And so
you have a bond.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of doctors that, you know, I've got a lot of there's other community members and we'll be like, oh, look, did you see this research article or look at this? And we're just like, well, I know what I'm reading tonight.
Yeah. And then you compare notes the next day.
Yeah. And so, too, it's like you can bring those things to the community groups. And that's another great resource for just, discourse about it and trying to help understand it and share thoughts.
Share
And,
thoughts and everything.
it's so that way it's not a vacuum.
Looking ahead, what is your biggest goals for Life's Apolyp Foundation, and how can our listeners get involved and support this mission?
So ultimately, I'd say our biggest goal is to change the research for it in that sense that we fund it more. So we get more research. And so what we want to do is help get the research funds funded for grants so that researchers can apply to do specifically FAP research. And so we're donating to research funds for FAP and FAP only. Now, not to say that we might, do like a desmoid or something in the future, but honestly, I think if you are doing a research on desmoids, you could apply for the FAP potentially too, just as a research grant, because that is part of FAP. But yeah, so designating research funds to fund specifically for FAP so that you said when you have more research going on, you can get different things going on, and hopefully we can get to where we prevent surgery and we can keep our organs.
And keep them all
what
in
I
place.
would love, yes, and what I would love to see, and I don't know, how likely this is or how soon, but if we could figure out how to just turn our gene back on, because right now it's turned off. It's our mutation is on the APC gene. It's a tumor suppressor gene, and so what happens with FAP is that tumor suppressor is turned off. So if we could just turn that back on, I think that would be the ultimate
researchers. If you're listening to this, I'm sure they're already working on it, but
I'm sure,
like two girls on a podcast is going to change, but
we're spreading awareness though. You
never know. You never know who's listening.
No. And you never know like how something will spark. I can give you a great example of that way. I know this one FAP advocate in the community, and she came across Life's Apolyp. And through that, she came across Carlton Meyer's story, who is what FAP Awareness Week was started in honor of his 90th birthday. And when she read his story and just his life experiences and lifespan, it was like a switch for her. It changed everything. So never underestimate the power of a story.
And you have that, Jenny. You have a story that truly we've connected just through our previous podcast, obviously, but I just want my listeners to know how proud I am of you. I've seen what you've done with your podcast. I follow you on your Life's Apolyp, and it's truly something this community needs. And if you are out there, I encourage you to support her mission. Do you have a website, or where can our listeners go to?
Yes. So our website is lifesapolyp.org, and we've got all the different information. We've got the toolkits. We've got all kinds of things on there. We're always adding more, of course. So it's a great starting spot for information and ways to connect too. And then we also have social media of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We're doing we've got some videos. Well, I have old videos, but we're working on brand new types of videos where we're doing things with panels, and that's pretty exciting.
Awesome.
And so it's just kind of we're growing in different ways, and of course, obviously, donations is one way to support because that helps fund all the different things that we're doing and the research funding, but also just spreading information, the awareness, sharing your story on our Life's Apolyp Foundation's website, like all kinds of different ways that, if you're a FAP patient or family member or attenuated FAP, if different ways to help support can just be getting involved. So whether that's donations, whether that's telling your story, that's getting on one of the panels, reach out and say, what can I do? Like, let's brainstorm together.
How can I help? Yeah.
Yes, let's see what you feel comfortable doing. And let's see if you're not already an advocate, how we can turn you into one.
And
help you with that journey.
both of us have been that route. And I've had people that are like, I want to help, but I don't even know. I said, I'll train you. And
Right,
it's
absolutely.
just sharing your story. That's all
Yeah,
it is.
that's where it starts.
Because everyone is different. Everyone's story and journey is different, but the end goal is the same, to be
Yes.
an impact in our communities.
Absolutely. And honestly, it's so easy, but so hard at the same time. But we're here to help with that.
I am so proud of you, Jenny, and I thank you so much for coming on and being open. And I know you worried about it last time about being precise on some information, but you corrected that, and you have
absolutely.
then just expanded and boomed out into this beautiful foundation. And I know, speaking from being a daughter, your mama is so proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If the show has made an impact for your life, please share in the comments. We also encourage you to subscribe and share these on your own social media channels. Thank you to my listeners for helping us bring these episodes to those fighting serious chronic health conditions like Jenny's. Until next week, not without a fight.